On what does it take to parent a teenager? And
Right.
then also, what does it take to parent an adult? Because
Yes.
those are two different dynamics, two different expressions if you really think about it.
When your child starts feeling as if they don't have to follow the rules of your home, when your child starts causing division in your home, when your child no longer wants to respect you in your home, then it's time for your child to find their own home. Now I'm talking about children that are of legal age. If your child is 10 and terrorizing the home, that's a whole different conversation. But I'm talking about adult children. How do you know when it's time for them to leave the nest? When they're making the nest uncomfortable.
Comfort, if it's any consolation, I want you to know that you are an amazing mother.
Well,
You really
thank
are. You are an amazing mother. I've gotten a chance to get a front row seat in watching you over the years parent our children. It has not been easy.
Lord.
And my prayer today is that the episode that we're about to showcase is going to minister to not just the family, not just the husband, not just the wife, but I believe it's going to also minister to maybe some children that's watching this. So we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit. Let's give them a little bit about our story. Who are we, what we do, etc.
Absolutely. So we are Ken and Dana Bennett, both serial entrepreneurs. Like he said at the intro, we have been, this year will make 18 wonderful
18
years. 20 years of being together and knowing each other. We are a blended family. We co-pastor an amazing church. Connect Church
Let's
Plano. A growing ministry that we are honored to lead. And that's kind of us in a nutshell.
I think that is us in a nutshell. Now, we've been married, you said 18 years. Now, I know we've experienced some highs and lows. And that's the beauty of this channel is we really want to confront those areas specifically in ministry, marriage, mental health, and money. So my prayer in this episode is that we're going to get a chance to minister to the family unit today. How are you feeling just about the topic altogether?
I'm feeling good. This, like I said, is something that we get asked about quite a bit. Most families that you find nowadays, especially if you're getting married later in life or you're on a second marriage, you are a blended family. Somebody is coming to the marriage with children or some sort of obligations, even if it's taking care of parents, bringing that into the marriage. So
cool. So let's talk about our first year of marriage. We were married right out of the gate. We came in. We were young. I just remember we were 24. I think you were 20 because you're older than me.
Here we go.
I'm into the older folks, and so
I'm older than
you're
you
my
by
senior.
a few months.
It's okay. You're cougar. But anyway, we were 24, clueless, trying to be entrepreneurs, lead a family. We were in ministry, but not to the degree that we are today.
Right.
I remember 24, 25, trying to raise 4 children, blended family, exes on both sides. It was extremely stressful. So let's kind of talk about that, and let's kind of guide our way into kind of some pointers that I think will benefit the listener today.
The biggest challenge was not so much the kids, because we were blessed with kids who right off the bat, if no one told you they weren't natural blood brother and sister, you would not know that. Our 2 sons are close in age, our 2 daughters are close in age, and it just kind of felt like we had always been family. I know that's not everybody's story and everybody's context, so I'm certainly counting that as a blessing. But what made it challenging was the difficulty in co-parenting with the other parents. That brought a level of stress to the relationship, and I think it was because we were both fresh off of divorces. And so this wasn't like there was a lot of time to kind of heal and process in between that before we came together and we're like, okay, we're getting married and we're a family. And so there was some hurt there. And there was just kind of what happens, unfortunately, a lot of times in families is that parents weaponize the children.
Yeah. Wow.
So they use their anger and they use the child to whoop the other parent, or to get some sort of revenge on the other parent. And that was certainly what was happening in our household. the exes were weaponizing our children. And so both you and I were in and out of court.
A whole lot.
You a little more so than me, but my situation was dramatic as well. We had to go across state lines to get my baby and all of that. And so it was just a very tumultuous first couple of years in getting the other parents to kind of settle in the fact that we're a new family now. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Let's all be mature and do what's in the best interest of the children. It took a minute for that to happen.
It did. And it you know, if you're not careful, the challenge of becoming a blended family, most spouses never make it past it if other children are involved, because the children kind of become, as you mentioned, the weapon that's designed to kill the marriage. And so what we really want to do today with this episode, which is why I think it's really beneficial and it's going to be fruitful, is just to provide some wisdom. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to me right now, I want you to drop in the comments, what's your current situation in your family dynamic? Are you parenting a child, a teenager, or if you're parenting an adult? And if you're comfortable, just let us know, because we're going to get a chance to go back, check out the comments, and I want you to know that we're sending prayers in your direction. This is a season where students are headed back to school. I know here in North Texas, kids are headed back to school. So I thought this conversation would be great to help really start an effective, wholesome, less challenging parenting season for those of us who are trying to raise kids. But I find, matter of fact, let me just ask you before we get into it, is it easier raising them as teenagers, or is it easier parenting them as adults?
I would say teenagers is easier.
Really?
I would. I think the hardest part in this parenting journey has been once they become adults and left the home.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think you really know what type of parent you are until your kids leave the nest.
Oh my goodness. I hope we're good parents.
I think we're doing pretty good. But that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And you get to see what you've put in your children, how well you've prepared them for the world. Once you send them out into the world and kind of remove a little bit of that safety net, you get to see how strong their wings are. Do they really have what it takes to fly? Or how much are you still having to kind of be the wind beneath their wings? Right. As parents, we're always there for our kids, but you get to see what kind of decision-making skills they have, what kind of survival skills they have. If left up to their own devices, what kind of self-control do they have? Were they only staying and obeying the law because you were watching them and now they're out there being reckless? Or do they have some level of self-control and maturity about themselves? So I think you really get to see that once your children leave the nest. But we move from being managers to advisors.
Okay.
Once our kids become adults.
I think I like them. Well, I love all of my children, so let me just state that. But I think the season we're in as advisors, I like this a lot better. For me, it's less stressful. Now, you know, it's hard out there trying to parent adults, especially when they don't have their business together, have their stuff together. But I just found personally that it's a lot easier for me to build relationships with my children out of the house. They're getting a chance to learn that this wasn't just content we were throwing in their direction in terms of wisdom, but they're now getting a chance to see that mom and dad weren't being difficult. We were just preparing you for the life you're headed towards. And so now they get a chance to live in it, sit in it, and we just kind of serve more so as individuals who can provide advice. And so for me, I felt that was a lot easier, less stressful.
The reason why we're able to do that now is because of how we parented in past years.
Okay.
And we are different parents now than how we originally started.
Okay.
You noted that there are two different types of parents, typically, that our children get to see. There's that kind of loosey-goosey, a little more liberal parent. And then there's that no-nonsense kind of drill sergeant type parent.
Now, that was me.
That was you for sure.
You were the more free, you know, give the children an opportunity to express their feelings. What are you thinking today? What would you like to eat? I was raised in the era you ate what was presented to you. You didn't get a choice. You were to be seen not heard.
Mm-hmm.
And at any moment you were subject to be disciplined if you got out of order. And early on into our marriage, I came into the marriage with that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I just did not like noise. I did not just sit down, just enjoy the moment of where you are. And you really had to help me really simmer a little bit, because I recognized that I was repeating a former paradigm that was contributing to a lot of things that were going on within me.
Right.
And I did not realize that I was at risk of positioning my children to be in a similar context. What would you say? Is there a benefit to both, or is one better than the other? Loosey-goosey versus strict, rule-bound, rigid? What's your, I know for me, I was more comfortable with being firmer, whereas you were more, let's.
I grew up, my mom was a little bit ahead of her time, because we're not that far in age, even though you try to make it seem like I'm old. So I very much grew up around cousins and friends and things like that, who were being raised in that type of be seen and not heard. Children don't have opinions and thoughts, just get somewhere and sit down, smacking kids for any little thing. My mom was ahead of her time in that she didn't raise us that way. So although I saw it around me in our home, I was able to have a voice as long as I was respectful. I was given language, for how I felt and that type of thing. And so I appreciate that I wasn't raised in a household where every little thing I was getting a spanking or a whooping or whatever. So I brought that to the relationship. And I think what I had to get you to see was kids are people. They have feelings just like we do. Just because they may not be able to verbalize it, just because they don't have the same amount of power and authority and autonomy that we do as adults, because they don't have the knowledge or the resources or capacity to govern themselves, doesn't mean that their feelings don't matter. We are supposed to be teaching them how to vocalize their feelings, how to manage and regulate and all of that. So if we're constantly telling them, sit down, shut up, be quiet, don't move, don't talk, do this, do that, and never give them an opportunity to express themselves, then we're not teaching them how to then grow up and be adults to know how to communicate and regulate their emotions. And that's why we have people who are full-grown adults who can't have effective conversations. They have tantrums. And you ask them what's wrong, and all they know is either I'm mad, sad, or happy. That's as far as their emotional vocabulary extends. They don't know how to express themselves because they were never taught.
I am a better parent to my last child than I was to my first child, which meant that's the beauty of being given a chance to continue to try. I have a younger son who was my firstborn. And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm getting a chance to see moments that he missed, opportunities that I missed in his upbringing. Now with our fifth child, which is, she's 16 years old. I'm learning she's getting the best version of me as a parent, because I believe through time, through training, you have taught me, and that's one of the things that I love about our marriage, is one of the things I had to accept early on is that if you don't master parenting, it will master you. And I didn't really see that going in, because I don't know necessarily if the model that I came up under was the most effective model. And so after 18 years of being married, I've seen, just the growth just through all of our children. They all have their story. I'm sure they have, stories to share where we may not have been the best. But one thing is for certain, I love the fact that I was giving a chance to correct where there had been maybe not some of my best moments as an adult. And I want to encourage, if you're listening to me right now, don't beat yourself up because of parenting in a former season. One of the things that's what I love about, living is that you're given an opportunity to try again. I think sometimes we think that one mistake has to be the thing that stains our history and stains the past, the present, and the future. But there are things we can do as an adult to really correct where we felt like we have not been the best in our parenting abilities, so that when they do become adults, we have an opportunity to have a relationship with our adult children.
We have had an opportunity to progress as parents. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. Every child is going to have a story of where you hurt their feelings, you missed it, you left some sort of mark on your child. However, but one of the things that we have practiced that I don't know happens enough, particularly in minority homes, we have gone and we've apologized to our kids.
That's true.
We have sat and had conversations with them. You and I both started having kids at 17. Yeah. That's only 1 year older than our youngest child is right now. I could not imagine her being a mom.
Wow.
Just look, that's right. So I gave, and I'm sure you did as well, I did the best job I could as a 17-year-old parent. I wasn't equipped with a whole lot of life skills at 17. So it wasn't for a lack of love. It was for a lack of knowledge. It was for a lack of tools. And so I had to circle back and apologize to my children, even, through those early years where we were still trying to figure out how to blend and how to do. And I can think back on scenarios where we didn't handle news the right way or stress the right way or whatever. We had to go back and apologize to our kids.
For sure.
And just like we as parents or as adults, if I wrong you, I come and I apologize to you. Our children deserve that same respect for their feelings.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage people, if you know that you've done something to leave a mark or a scar on one of your children, a moment where you just really missed it, it goes a long way to healing the heart for them to hear you acknowledge and then for you to sincerely apologize.
That's good.
So often we say things like, well,
you'll be okay.
You'll be okay. I did the best I could. Or what do you want me to do about it now? And it invalidates their feelings. And that hurt, although they may be 30 now or 20 now or whatever, they're still seeing that moment through the lens of whatever age they were.
That's good.
And so you've got a 20-year-old who still, when they revisit that moment, they're 6.
That's good.
And so you're apologizing to that 6-year-old so that their heart can be healed and mended and your child can mature emotionally through forgiveness.
That's good. I think one of the things that we've done in our family, within our home, is, as you've mentioned, and I think this is important to make sure we emphasize and state, your children need to hear the words "I'm sorry." I believe it becomes language that's useful later. I discovered, early, into our marriage. I know we can kind of talk about it a little bit, where the word "I'm sorry" was not something that I don't think either of us heard a lot. I don't know. I didn't. So it became difficult language, even in our style of communicate towards each other as adults. And so what we really worked on is making sure that our children, my daughters, my sons, understood that there are moments that I am not perfect. It is okay to own that. It does not, if anything, I believe that the respect meter increases when our children see that we may have acted out in a moment where we were off. I really, want to encourage parents, especially when you're raising teenagers. I tell, I was just talking with someone this week, and I was telling them, listen, you're at the stage right now where you got and I think a newborn child says, you're at the stage right now that between now and, 3 or 4, your child likely won't remember 2 years old or being 6 months or 1 year. I said, so this is an opportunity for you to really, really step up as a father and work on some things. I says, because that child is going to start transitioning where their memory is going to start putting, set into motion. and you're given an opportunity. If you waste that time frame, you're going to regret it later. Good parents aren't those who have kids without problems. They're the ones who keep showing up, standing beside their child through every challenge. That's a point that we've got here in our note. And I really want to encourage the parent that is feeling like they're not the best mother, they're not the best father, because problems are showing up. Right. Problems are not synonymous of effective parenting. Problems are just a result of living. You keep living, problems show up. You want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You can be, Cliff and Claire Huxtable and your kids still go off to Baltimore to have big fun. You know what I mean? Like your kids can still mess up. You can have the perfect environment. You can raise them in church. You can, give them every advantage, and your kids will still find a way to mess up because, to your point, that's life. Think about your own childhood and how many times, despite someone telling you or even showing you a better way, you still did your own thing. It happens. And then heaven forbid the spirit of rebellion creep into your home. That adds a whole nother.
Every child in Jesus' name goes through the season of rebellion.
Exactly.
There's no way you can avoid it, especially when they become teenagers.
Right.
That is a phase every child goes through it. I don't know why it's hard for some parents to accept that. The way I look at it is I remember when I was a teenager and how rebellious I was. And that then becomes an opportunity for me to maybe exercise some grace, some patience, and throw some prayer in there. And at times, maybe even some discipline if we deem it necessary. I really believe that we're going to have to buckle down and recognize that every child deals with it. It is what is important is how we approach it. And I know that's we have kind of a process. One, you have kind of governed my approach, but I also believe we had a similar belief system in place.
Although our parenting styles were different, our beliefs were the same. We loved our kids unequivocally. We wanted what was best for them. And our home is governed and ruled by our faith. And so that's what we led out of. You were a little more, strict and black and white. I was a little more nurturing, which I think is a common dynamic in families. You were harder on the boys than I was. I was harder on the girls than you were. I think because you knew what it took to get you to be a responsible young man and not be a knucklehead. And I knew what it took for me to be a responsible young woman and not be out here wilding out and for the streets. And so I was trying to instill that in our daughters. You were trying to instill it in our sons. But we did, one thing I do appreciate is that early on, we knew we had to take a different approach with each kid. We treated them
is definitely not one size fits all.
Not at all.
I think that's you can't copy and paste how you raise another child to the next. It definitely doesn't work that way.
And we never, at least I don't think we did, and I hope our children never interpreted anything that we said as comparing our children. Why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? That type of thing. That type of language is very divisive, and it plants this seed of competition in your children. It impacts their self-worth and their self-esteem. And so we had to just treat each kid individually and uniquely. And we had to get creative with parenting our kids and driving certain lessons home, with our kids. But faith was always at the center of it. And I think that was the thing that has helped us through some of our hardest moments with our kids is the practice of forgiveness and grace. And mercy and giving second chances and long suffering and patience and those type the fruit of the spirit governing our parenting.
Absolutely. I think we as parents, we've done our best. What's interesting is raising 5 children. Each of them have a unique personality where our approach has to shift. You know what I'm saying? I remember my oldest son, Robert, really emotional.
He's
very sensitive. And I remember my initial reaction wasn't appropriate for what he was feeling. And I think that's a mistake that most parents make, is we don't identify the most effective way to reach our children. Our jobs is to pray. I believe, as you mentioned, faith being central to our parenting style. Our job is to ask God to give us wisdom in how to reach our children.
Right.
Because I believe that what we can't discover, I believe the Holy Spirit does give us an opportunity to really identify where in the approach in which we need to take in trying to reach our children. Because at the end of the day, we want them to grow up, be healthy, be who they've been called to be, and then also make sure that the relationship that we've established in their season of adolescence is not affected in their season of being adults. You and I were raised in an era that there was a path that one had to take. It was go to school. Once you graduate high school, you go to college, you leave college, you go get a job. When Dana and I were considering putting together this channel, we had one objective in mind. It was to find a way to answer specific questions in the 4 areas that provide both highs and lows in life. That's marriage, ministry, mental health, and money. So if you're getting any value from the content that is shared today, I want you to do us a solid. Why don't you hit the subscribe button, turn on those alerts, and then let us know what you're getting from today's episode. I want you to know that we're praying for you. Thank you so much for checking out our brand new channel. Things have changed a lot in the 21st century as it relates to parenting children. I think that's an opportunity as well for parents, is that we need to see that how we were raised has drastically shifted, especially after this pandemic. You want to maybe speak to that for a quick second, how things have changed?
Yeah, I think you're right. Things have changed. I tell people a lot of times, not just in parenting, but in general, there are certain just core things that just are, right? There are certain principles and things and certain things that go into parenting that do not change with time. As a parent, it's your job to keep your child safe. It's your job to make sure that your child feels loved. It's your job to provide basic needs for your child. That doesn't change throughout time. How we do that changes. You know, there were babies that were born during the pandemic that up until the age of 2, they had never left their homes.
Wow.
Whereas other babies had been in daycare since they were 8 weeks old. So completely different dynamic. This whole idea of you graduate from high school. I know our older kids, we were like, you're getting luggage for your graduation gift. Congratulations. You're going off to college. We love you. And that was just the natural progression. Now, they're seeing that they are boycotting adulthood.
Absolutely.
They're boycotting college. They're not in a rush to leave the home. I remember me and our friends, and probably you as well, we thought 18, boom, I'm out.
Right.
Like we were eager to go discover what was next, whether it was college, working, living on your own, the military, whatever it was. We just kind of naturally knew come 18 or 19, you were leaving the nest. That's not the case anymore.
Not anymore.
And part of it is the cost of living is ridiculous. I remember being in a 2-bedroom apartment paying $550 in a nice large 2-bedroom with a big balcony and $550, and I thought I was doing it. I couldn't live in a box for $550 right now. Certainly not a 2-bedroom. You know what I'm saying? And so the cost of living is prohibiting some kids from leaving the nest because, they just can't afford to with, working at Target or Walmart or fast food. So there's that aspect, but then also they're not in a hurry.
That is true. There was a recent study many years ago where it was saying that teenagers are boycotting adulthood.
Yeah.
They were delaying it by saying we're pushing it out to 30. Like I'm not growing up to 30. So they're remaining at home till 30. So where you and I left the house very, very early. Our children, that is not the case anymore.
Now look at the house though.
Go ahead. What do you mean?
We, our generation we provided some pretty nice perks. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I don't know if I had grown up how I'm living now if I would have been in such a rush to leave.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
So is it possible we're making them too comfortable?
It could be, but I'm not fixing to downgrade my life to make you move out. You know what I'm saying? So, but our lives are a little bit different. We've been blessed and privileged to be able to provide a life for our kids that you and I did not have growing up. Our mothers did the best that they could, but you and I both are from single parent households, single income households. We almost felt like us leaving lifted a burden off of our mothers. I know I did. And so there was just kind of this, let me go on and move out of the way so that at least she doesn't have to focus on me. She can focus her attention, finances, resources on my siblings. Our kids are not thinking that way.
Absolutely not.
They're like, why am I giving up Netflix, my own room, big screen TV, pool in the backyard, access to the car, free Wi-Fi,
maid service,
maid serve, all these perks to go do what?
Every meal paid for.
Right.
What would you like for dinner tonight?
Right. Can I borrow your keys to the car? And it's not a hoopty. Right. It's a nice car in the driveway. Take your pick, So there's that. But they've also, I think, even with the boycotting of going to college, we followed that path. Mm-hmm. I know I did. And I left, with a bunch of student loan debt and still had to climb and hustle and scrape to climb that ladder. Mm-hmm. So I think their thought is like, listen, I can go and be an influencer and make...
True. Kill it right now.
The same amount of money my parents, it took them 20 years to make by doing a couple of videos a few hours a day. I can go be my own boss. A lot of us now are entrepreneurs and our kids are watching us grow up working for ourselves, not working for anyone else. And so they were raised with that entrepreneurial spirit. And so they're in less of a rush to go punch a clock, to go work for somebody else. They are driven by passions and ideologies, whereas we were driven by patterns, and expectations. And so it's just different raising these kids. One of the things I've stopped saying, because I admit at first I was like, these millennials are lazy. I don't know what's wrong with these folks. They don't want to work. They don't have no work ethic, because I was employing a lot of young people. And I'm just like, y'all are different. I've been doing this 20 years. I'm not your peer. Y'all are different. Something's different. You ask them to work late. They're like, yeah, no, I get off at 4 because I got to meet somebody for happy hour at 5. I'm not working late. And I remember every opportunity I had to make some overtime. I was taking it.
Absolutely.
These new boos, they're like, you get me from 9 to 5. After that, I'm out.
I'm out 5:01. Don't ask me for anything
nothing
extra. That's a wrap for me.
Exactly, because I really don't even want to be here.
Right.
So just a different mindset. But we help cultivate that. Technology helped cultivate that. Inflation helped cultivate that. Comfortable living helped cultivate that. And so we cannot blame them for just being who they are based on how they were raised.
We want to find a way to give them a roadmap for one, parenting, raising a teenager, and then also parenting an adult. Absolutely. I really want to make sure we spend a little time and really provide an effective roadmap that I believe is useful and beneficial to someone checking this out right now. As a matter of fact, if you're getting any value out of the content that we're sharing today, please, let us know in the comments what's been some of your takeaways thus far and what's been your biggest frustration with parenting. Go ahead and put that in the comments. One, we want to pray for you. We want to join you in the mission of that. We want to do life with you in this season. I want you to know there's still hope, and God has a plan for your children. First thing that I think we've done our best with doing, and I want to make sure that I get it correct, is I made sure that I didn't spend a lot of time reminding my children about their flaws.
Right.
I think, I have the job of painting a bright future for my children. I want them to see hope in who they are. I want them to own who they are. I think, as I was growing up, I heard a lot about my mistakes. I heard a lot about my flaws. I heard a lot about my shortcomings. I heard a lot about my issues. And so my reference point was always reset back to what I am not.
Mhm.
I think that's important, is sometimes in our disappointment and in our anger, we say things that we don't understand really kind of takes root in our children, especially as teenagers. I've raised 3 daughters in our house, and one of the things I know I've not gotten an A for this. I maybe say a B plus. I don't know, maybe B plus.
Let's see what you're talking about.
Okay. Wow. Not let's see what you're talking about. Wow. I feel like I've gotten a B plus. All right. I don't know that I've gotten an A, but I've not gotten it perfect. But I've done my best to really make sure that my daughters understood who they are, and got a chance to see, that their future is bright, and to tap into that potential, that they're not their mistakes, that you can recover from a mistake.
Mhm.
I know for me, and you can speak to this for just a second, there are parents who are frustrated by flaws of their teenagers.
Mhm.
And it's very hard to not remind them of what they've done. And what they're doing, and how that possibly creates a pattern for the future. So how do we kind of, work out of that and work through that? What is some language we possibly can use to really reshape how our children should see themselves after doing something that was greatly, disappointing?
Yeah, I think we've been really careful to not assign or attribute mistakes to their character or their person. Think back to when you were a teenager, mom, dad, whoever's listening to this. I pray you're not the same person today that you were then. Our children are still baking. They're still cooking. You just got the ingredients in the pan and put it in the oven when they're teenagers. They haven't been in there long enough for you to even begin to see even a glimpse of their potential, really, and who they're going to be as adults. So let's not judge who our children are going to be based on the mistakes and things that they're doing as teenagers. They're battling hormones. They're battling social pressures. They're battling esteem issues. They're battling wanting to have autonomy and responsibility and respect, while also still being a child. Their brains aren't even fully formed until they're 24, 25 years old. So you're dealing with someone with half a brain, literally. And so you have to be careful with language that is attached to their character and not what they did.
That's true. I remember being a teenager, and this can, maybe help provide clarity for a parent today that's spending a lot of time reminding their current teenager of their flaws. When I became an adult, I remember, a family member saying to me, "You'll never be anything. You're going to spend your life, in trouble, and you're just a kid from the way, and nothing good is going to come out of you." I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to prove them wrong, which landed me in a lot of trouble. I took some paths that were not the best path of my choosing, but all I could remember is what they said I wouldn't be, because I was making mistakes at the time. I believe that one of the things we have to be careful is seeing that when we remind our children of their constant flaws, all it does is build a reservoir of resentment. And you become an adult who resents your upbringing, who resents your rearing as a child. And for me, I had to really allow the power of God to break that off my life, because it really affected a lot of the things that I was doing in my 20s, even in my early 30s. I don't know if you've, grew up feeling a little resentment, but I just remember just constantly, I was a kid that was in trouble. In part, I realize now that God had a great plan for my life.
Right.
And one of the things I want to say to a parent right now, usually the child that gives you the greatest grief is a child with a great assignment.
Yeah.
And your best weaponry is to point them to their future, not remind them of their now.
Yeah.
And I believe that some of my things that I went through in my 20s, had I not resented some of the things that I endured as a child, I probably would be a little bit further today.
Yes.
But thank God for grace. You know,
Amen.
I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
But boy, I did have to pay a price to get
Yeah.
to where I am. What
We
you
do
feel?
have to speak those things that be not as
Absolutely.
though they were over our children. Speak to your point, pointing them in the direction of where they're headed, not where they are right now.
Absolutely.
And you're right, words concretize certain things on our heart. And then we start acting out of that. And so we have got to make sure that we speak life into our children, help them to understand that a mistake is not final. You made a mistake. Let's think through this. Let's talk through this so that you don't make this same mistake.
Absolutely.
But as long as you attach them to the failure, because who knows you better than the person who gave birth to you, who's responsible for you being here? So our words mean more to our children than anybody else's words, because who knows me better than you? So if you say I'm nothing, then I must be nothing. If you say I'm dumb, then I must be dumb, because who else knows me better than my own parent? So we've got to be very careful with not allowing our frustration with our children to allow us to speak poison into their lives.
I think this idea of invalidating our children's feelings, I know you have a lot of context with that. I think that's the beauty of your upbringing, is that that's not something that you experienced as much as I did. You know, as I stated, I came from the era, be seen, not heard. Hush, quiet, sit down. Your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions do not matter. But we're in a different day. We're in a different time. And I've learned, especially with raising young women, that I needed to, and you helped kind of, you know, establish that in helping me see that we have to show our children that their opinions, they do matter, and then help them practice expressing their feelings. Come on.
Right. And that was, you know, although I grew up with that opportunity, it took me a minute to realize how to really practice that myself in parenting. I know with my oldest, you know, he's probably the most sensitive out of all of our children. And so very young, I think because I was just trying to survive. I was just 17, trying to survive, trying to put food on the table, those sorts of things. There were moments that I missed where I could have validated his feelings all the more. I could have stopped and recognized the sensitivity he was feeling in that moment. And so I now, you know, I think I've mastered giving our kids room and space to say and be. You can have big emotions. And I think some of the outbursts that we see with our kids, and I'll just speak in our own family, is because we didn't give them room and space to have their big emotions.
Wow.
Let me show you what it means to feel something really big and not destroy something, not tear something up, not be disrespectful. But if we don't teach kids how to have their feeling and put language to it, then that's where we get the disrespect. Then that's where we get the destructive behavior. Then that's where we get these outbursts and all of these things that are destructive to the dynamic of the family. But if we validate our kids' feelings, I get that you're upset.
Absolutely.
Because you made a low grade, and so now you can't go to the party. I understand why you're upset. But here's why we came to this decision.
Right.
Because right now you don't need to be distracted. The time that you're spending partying, you could spend studying. Partying is an extra. It's a get to. It's not a have to. So let's focus on these grades, and then you can get to do the extras. Instead of just saying, no, you failed your test, you're grounded, shut up, we don't talk, you don't get a say in this. Validate their feelings. I understand that you're angry. You wanted to go to the party.
It's good.
But that's not what we're doing right now, and here's why. And it takes nothing away from your authority as a parent to sit down and talk things through with your child, because now they get to understand what you're doing really is because you love me.
Wow.
Not because you hate me, you don't like me, you want to spoil my fun, you just a hater, you mean. No, it's because I really love you and I want what's best for you.
Right.
But if you never sit down and reason with your child and help them understand,
That's good.
they're left to form whatever in their own little minds.
If anything, you know, I think this quite naturally leads to the next point. We also have to learn to communicate to our children the beauty of humility. I think sometimes as parents, we personify ourselves as always knowing more and being better than our children. We had to learn that sometimes we have to come to where they are, hear their reasoning, hear them out. Sometimes allowing your children to communicate and express how they reach the decision that they're at. This kind of levels the playing field a little bit to where they get a chance to see that we're at least, or as the scripture says, let us come and reason together. I think one of the things that I had to learn and master as a parent is making sure that my children know that not just how their emotions are critical, but their mind is as well. They have a greater advantage for learning more information faster, quicker, and more efficiently and effectively than we were. We had to, thug our way through an encyclopedia. They've got Google.com, they've got artificial intelligence. And so I've learned even with, our younger child I've learned to find a way to appreciate their mind and appreciate, them growing in their own way and developing their knowledge base, because I've learned they can teach me a thing or two as well. And I've had to learn that. I think a lot of parents want to find a way to protect their children from hitting rock bottom or hitting a hard place. I remember a story, one of our children, when he would get in trouble, he decided he wants to take the long way of getting home and avoid home, running away from home. And I remember distinctly where a time it took place where police department had picked him up, and I made a decision that we're gonna let him stay there overnight and let him experience this for a night, to get a chance to see what it is like when you want to do life your way, and what happens when you try to do it your way without structure, without following the parameters. This is what takes place. And so we allowed him to stay there overnight for training. And then once we went and picked him up, we were able to talk through what were some lessons that he was able to learn from that. And I'm thankful that none of our children have ever had to have an encounter with the law. But I think the mistake of a lot of parents is, in our effort to protect our children from hitting a hard place, we try to just be God for them, and there's a danger in that. What do you?
Absolutely. I say this often: what you won't learn from love, you will learn from life. As parents, we try our best to teach our children lessons because we love them. We know what's waiting for them out there in the world. Things have changed a lot, but some things still remain the same. Trouble is not hard to find. Usually it comes looking for you. Everything that glitters ain't gold. There's just certain things out there that have not changed. We know where the potholes are because we've been down that road before. We try to teach our children out of love. But if they refuse to learn through the safety of the home and the love of the parents, life will teach you that lesson.
Absolutely.
There's certain lessons we all have to learn, and you can learn it one way or another, the easy way or the hard way. And you made a good point about us jumping in and trying to be God for our children. I have found that each of our children is going to have to learn who he is for themselves.
That's good.
And oftentimes they don't really get to know who he is until they get out there in life and have to call on him for themselves.
Absolutely.
And so we're constantly swooping in and saving the day. When do they ever get an opportunity to build their own faith and their own prayer life?
And I believe in that too. We delay their maturity. We are, as I say, as we've mentioned, we're a blended family and we're a large family. But one of the things that we've tried our best to do early on in raising our children is to show them that there are consequences for your actions. And there are some consequences that are more detrimental than others. So, what you don't trust, what wisdom you won't gain from us, then you then have to make a decision of whether or not life is going to teach you that. What would you say to the parent that deals with the agony, possibly the frustration, and even the nervousness and I hate to use this word, of letting go.
Right. Letting go and giving up are two different things.
Oh, that's good.
Just because you let your child go experience life, especially when they're hell bent on doing it their own way with their own limited wisdom, doesn't mean you're giving up on your child. Sometimes you have to just pray and put them in the hands of God, and then just be like the father of the prodigal son, stand there and wait for them to come to themselves. And I continue to pray for our children daily. And that's all of them, not just the ones left in the house. It's all of them. I pray for them daily. They were his kids before they were ever mine. And so I trust that he actually loves them more than I do and knows what's best for them more than I do. And so I just continue to pray that the Lord would keep them, his angels would watch over them. But I let my children go. I didn't give up.
What age do you feel like we did that at?
I think it was different for each kid, but we know when it's coming close to that time for them to leave home.
Okay, what are those signs? Come on, help the people.
Yeah,
help the signs,
because some of you all invite chaos into your home.
Oh my goodness!
And the chaos looks just like you. It's got your face, your last name,
right?
Eating up your food, using up all your good air. It's in the person of your child. How is it that you pay the mortgage and you don't feel like coming home to your own house, but your child is up in the media room, Netflix and feet up on the couch, eating up all the snacks, don't have a job, coming in between you and your husband? No. When your child starts feeling as if they don't have to follow the rules of your home, when your child starts causing division in your home, when your child no longer wants to respect you in your home, then it's time for your child to find their own home. Now I'm talking about children that are of legal age. If your child is 10 and terrorizing the home, that's a whole different conversation. But I'm talking about adult children. How do you know when it's time for them to leave the nest? When they're making the nest uncomfortable. This is my nest. You want to do that over there? You can do that at your nest. And I'll even help you find a new nest.
Come on.
I'll even help you furnish your new nest. But the rules of the house don't change just because you age.
That's good. Wow.
And when I say rules, certainly Gabriella has different rules now that she is 16 versus when she was 6. I'm talking about the overarching faith of this home, the overarching temperament of this home. That doesn't change because now you're 21.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've made sure that we both have made sure that what we prioritize in this house is peace. I'm unwilling to pull up to a house where I don't have peace in it, especially if I'm making the mortgage payment. I'm sorry, it's just not going to work that way. The moment peace is disrupted, dishonor, disrespect is embraced. Listen, I love you, but we're going to have to find a different solution for you. Your lodging and your living arrangements are now being amended. One of the things that we've done over the years, every child, we've taught them responsibility early on. I find that some parents, I'm shocked that there is no responsibility embraced. Like you're not teaching them that. So, as our children, if they're working, we find a way, especially in moving through their teenage years, hey, you're now working, you're now responsible for buying all the drinks around the house. Make sure there's water, there's, whatever we want to teach juice. We want to teach our children that nothing in life is free. I think we establish, when you start teaching your children that nothing in life is free, they'll stop expecting it. They'll learn the importance of working towards it. I think what happens also, what keeps a teenager past their period, especially when they move into adulthood, is they have not had to understand the weight and the cost of being an adult. I've done my part getting you through high school. If you've opted to go to college, great. If you've opted not to go to college, also great. But listen, boo, we at this point, we've done our work. The goal is I need you to exit so me and my spouse can get an opportunity to enjoy our lives. I find that a lot of couples, especially if they're in a home, a married home, they're allowing their adult children to create a great impact on the marriage that they're trying to establish and the marriage that they're trying to build. And I'm looking forward, as we are working our way towards being empty nesters. I know we have a little while, but not much longer. We got a plan and we've got a vision. But I want to make sure that parents out there know, find a way to reset your frustration. Speak life into your teenagers. Parenting is not about being perfect. I've learned that it is about being present.
Right.
That's the goal. It's to be present in whatever season in which they're in. And your job, especially when they become adults, is you need to know that your role for children who you are now parenting as adults, your job is to be an advisor. Yeah. I think what the transition is difficult for some parents is we got to be able to control they were teenagers, now they're adults, we want to control that. I've learned that my best role and for my sanity and for my peace is to give advice, choose to use it or lose it. But one thing is for certain, I'm always going to be here. I'm always going to be present. And I want you to know that you can always rebound from a mistake.
Making that transition before things get crazy helps you be able to maintain a healthy relationship with your adult kids. If you allow your adult children to stay in the home too long and wreak havoc, resentment sets in, bitterness sets in, you start saying things that are damaging to one another. Now there's this strain on your relationship. When we start seeing the dynamic shift, we've been quick to go to our kids and say, okay, we need to come up with another plan. And part of it has been, and I think our kids may have interpreted it as mom and dad just want me out the house. No, we want to go ahead and help you transition while we still like each other. I don't want to wait until I say something to you to hurt your feelings because you're being disrespectful in my house. I don't want to wait until I embarrass you in front of your little boyfriend. So let me go ahead and let me help you transition into what you say you want, which is being an adult, while our relationship is still loving and intact.
What does that? I know we've done it with every child. So help the people for a quick second. What does the language of that look like? Because I know even, one of our children that just made their way out. They've been on their journey for at least a year now, I believe. What specific step did we take that we felt makes them uncomfortable?
Really, it's holding the line of the rules. Yeah, paying their rent.
Yes, there you go.
They're so offended when you say, okay, now that you want to be an adult, then let's start paying some rent. Oh, they get offended. It's so funny to me how they would much rather pay $800 somewhere else than a couple of $100 to stay here. And we have great amenities. I think we have better amenities than any apartment. But just the idea of my parents would charge me rent to stay in my own home. So then there's like, well, just let me go and get my own place, not realizing that it's not just the rent. It's rent plus water and lights and cable and renter's insurance and all the things that go with that. And so it's always interesting but I say when my rules start to offend you, then it's time for you to go and set your own rules. And I'm not mad at you. I'm happy for you to be able to go and set your own rules. But they get to see setting your own rules comes with a cost. That saying it costs to be the boss. It really does. So guess what? Now you're the boss of when you get to take your trash out. You're the boss of when you get to pay your own bills. You can come home or not come home. You can turn the lights off, not turn them off. You can run the water all day, every day if you want to. But guess what? It's going to cost you to be the boss. And I'm so happy to see you bossing up in your own place. Wow. God bless you.
Well, listen, guys, we pray that today's episode was of great encouragement. We want you to know that, listen, we understand that parenting can be a bit thuggish, but thug it out, and our prayer is that whatever wisdom that we've provided today, it is something that you can use to help really get you to the next season of parenting. I want you to know that you've got the help of the Holy Spirit. You've got God on your side. And then you've also got us. We're here praying for you. So if you caught this episode by surprise, this was God sovereignly involved, trying to help you get the help you've been praying for. We want you to know to hang in there. Don't throw them away. We're living proof that every child can rebound from a mistake, and God can even turn relationships around. So what we want to do, we want to pray for you. We want to encourage you. We want you to continue to stay in the journey. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. You're not the only parent that's going through. Okay? We love you guys. Let's pray for them. Go ahead.
Lord, we thank you for every person who will come in contact with this broadcast. Our prayer is that something was shared here on today that would encourage them to stay in the fight. We know that these were your babies before you ever even entrusted them to us. And so our prayer is that you would continue to watch over them, keep them, protect them, guide them. Father, I thank you for every assignment and purpose that you have on each and every one of our children. We even come against the adversary that would try to steal, kill, and destroy. But we thank you that you came that our kids might have life and have it more abundantly. I thank you for every gift that's placed inside of our children. I thank you, Father, for even undoing the damage that may have already been done in the home. We know that your love covers a multitude of sins. And so, Father, even as parents, our prayer is, Lord, protect our babies, even if you're protecting them from us. Father, give us the tools and the wisdom on how to raise our children upright before you. Father, give us the tools and the wisdom even to heal places where we may still need to heal that is inhibiting us and impacting our parenting. And so, Father, we just thank you for allowing your peace to rest in every home, your wisdom and your love to rest in every home. Our prayer is that you get the glory out of the way that we parent the children you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Listen, guys, thank you all so much for checking out this episode. Why don't you drop a note in the comments? Let us know what your biggest takeaways have been. And then secondly, how we can pray for you. If this is your first time checking out our channel, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn on those alerts. We're here posting a new episode every Monday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We love you. My name is Ken, and
I'm Dana.
Stay in faith. Talk to you guys soon.